Hey, Jim, unmute your
Yeah,
camera.
we can't hear anything in the room there, Jim.
So that up until the 30th and 31st, James will sell you a bridge, get a hold of them at musicq@arrl.net. The other event that's coming up, which we need a lot of operators for, is the holiday parade. That's the Saturday before Thanksgiving. So.
And where is that?
That's down probably from Schenectady Community College.
Okay.
That's the
It's in
parade.
Schenectady. That's,
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
what I was looking for. Okay,
There's
anything
also a half
else?
marathon. There's a half marathon coming up. I know the Troy Club, Karen KS20 was heading up to volunteers for that. I know that starts up here in Schenectady someplace. I believe it starts in Schenectady and ends down in Albany. So they were looking for people to help with that as well. I don't know the dates or anything, but I know that email flew by me.
Okay, good, thank you. Just to remind everybody, masks are required in the firehouse.
I'll turn down that gain.
Say again?
I said, we're in a firehouse. But
Yeah.
Summer Island District 2, 22 Bayberry Road, 22 Bayberry Hill.
just remind me to turn backwards. Turn back.
Yeah.
The gain.
Okay, so that's all I have. Jim,
Okay.
try the speaker.
Yeah, I don't have much experience ad living. Usually, both Paul and I and other people in this room have the experience at GE of some manager cracking the whip. You've got 29.5 minutes left, and if you don't finish by that time, we're going to put you in the lower category. Okay, so for programs on next month, Brian Jackson from East Greenbush is going to be speaking on the Titanic. He's actually got a book coming out next year early about the Titanic, and he's going to talk about the radio aspects of the Titanic. And so that's October. November, Bob, help me out. For November meeting? Bob, can you hear me? Am I muted again?
No.
Okay.
Probably very pick you up on
Yeah. Okay, well,
I'm sure you ought to go.
okay, well, it's this guy here, so I'll be, I think he should be able to hear me at this range. What was the November meeting? It's embarrassing. After sweating all summer to set these up, I think I remember every last one of them. But actually, Bob Salzman helped tremendously to secure speakers for several of the meetings. The December meeting, we're weighing our options in terms of having a social meeting at the buffet.
United Buffet.
United Buffet, that may happen. It kind of depends on New York State and Schenectady County powers that be. And if that doesn't happen as a social meeting, we'll have a regular meeting. The difficulty we're running into is since we're moving to the third Monday of each month, the third Monday of December happens to be the 20th, which is pretty close to Christmas. So the board will figure out what to do. If any of you has some input, you've got our emails, just shoot us an email and say, I vote for, first week in December for a social meeting. Because if it's a social, it won't be here. If it's a technical, it will be here. I've got James McMurray working very hard on putting together a presentation. He did a beautiful job last year on digital modes, and I want to hear more about digital modes or whatever else he wants to consider. January, we're going to have Lauren Libby, the CEO of Trans World Radio, speaking on the topic is what 1 million watts of RF looks like. And these are some of the largest radio stations in the world, operating 24/7, basically covering the world. Anyway, excellent speaker, very experienced with radio. And I think that'll be a real special event. That was supposed to be tonight's meeting, but since we moved from the first Monday to the third Monday, his calendar was blocked full. I don't know which continent he's on, but somewhere on planet Earth. Anyway, we've got a pretty good variety of programs coming up. I'm hoping that we migrate back to in-person speakers. We will have some in-person speakers, but we're still, in a way, reaping the benefits, shall we say, of the lockdown by getting in outside speakers that we never really dream of having someone like Lauren Libby fly to Schenectady, give a 40-minute talk, and then fly back home. Gee, we don't have that kind of budget. Any word from our speaker?
Ria's joined, and it looks like she's just arriving home because she's outside. And I don't know yet whether she's going to be ready to present slides. So as soon as she signals me, but you can probably see her image on the screen if you are seeing the actual gallery view. To answer just the rest of your question by scheduling, I've got Neil Goldstein for November talking about today's kit industry. And he will talk about practical ways, low cost to continue to build kits in amateur radio. Jim talked about December and Lauren Libby in January. In February, I've got Carl Lutzelschwab, who will be talking about the sunspot cycle, number 25, and how to take advantage of it and aspects of practical HF propagation prediction. And then in March, Don Malozzi, who is going to be speaking to us about satellites and amateur radio. I saw another presentation on Friday night on practical use of satellites, which means virtually no big money investment and not a lot of equipment. So it's very practical. And I'm still working on April and May. And then, of course, in June, we probably would have elections and planning for field day. So
How well do you hear us?
That answered your question.
I think he answered my question.
Well, he was talking at the same time.
Bob, can you still hear us?
when you're away from your PC, I can hardly hear, or it's not intelligible. So I can't hear anybody other than you when you're near the PC.
Okay.
So if we do questions and answers, you'll have to repeat them.
Yeah. I'll be the repeater.
Yeah.
I'll act like a.
I gotta get you one of those wireless.
Yeah, these are some of the the incidental concerns about doing hybrid meetings. If people who've taken it to the next step, set up a room microphone with a mixer and all that other good stuff. So, but we'll be fine. So Ria's picture disappeared and she hasn't responded to my chat. So what I'm assuming is it appeared she was getting out of her car, and I'm hopeful that she's heading indoors. And I asked her whether here she is.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm actually not home. I'm actually doing this presentation outside of home. But I'm hearing a bunch of background noise. I don't know if people are hearing me. So can you hear me?
We can, Ria. I've muted other people. Are you prepared to start a presentation in a minute or so? Or do you need a few more?
Yeah, give me a few minutes because I'm not, like I said, I'm not at home right now. But what happened is I had to drop my kids off somewhere. I didn't realize tonight they changed the date. So I'm actually doing that from outside right now. So will you be sharing slides with us? Yeah, I have two sets of slides. I have one for the league stuff and I have one for the Trinidad and Tobago one.
Okay, so while we give you a minute or so to settle, I'm just going to give a brief introduction. Most of our members are familiar with this, so you'll see on the screen in front of you some information about Ria Jairam, who is got to be familiar to most of you. She's certainly visited our club. She's been at the All Clubs picnic and was certainly very active in sharing with us her views when she was running for director. So she professionally is involved in as a consultant in several fields, including renewable energy and financial services.
Bring it down, you know, she's loud.
Oh, yeah, we'll see.
I'm turning off your microphone there, guys, because it's okay. In any event, her amateur radio history, all of this was on the landing page for the website, but she was first licensed in Trinidad Tobago, and she will, as part of her presentation tonight, talk about that subject. She has countless interests in amateur radio, including DXing and contesting and all of the biggies and the smallies that people in this hobby get involved with. She's actually a member of many clubs, in addition to the ones that she helps out with giving presentations and just visiting. She has a pretty cool YouTube channel that you might want to visit called Ria's Shack. I'm sure it's probably attractive, particularly to new hams, but I expect that it has appeal across the board. And she has been, for the last 3 years, our division director. So again, per the title page that was shared with you on the web, Ria is going to be talking initially about amateur radio in her home country, and then we'll also address some ARRL issues, and no doubt we'll be open to questions. If you are listening now, Ria, as you get settled, I was going to ask you whether you are okay with people interrupting and ask you questions during your presentation, or you would prefer them to the end. In general, the latter works better, but it's up to you. So whenever you're ready to go.
Yeah, it's up to you. I just need a minute more. I need to sign in to the slide. So I'm going to actually sign into the slides on another computer, because that works out better for audio wise.
Okay.
I'm thinking of so I actually have a new method of getting my email on N2RJ@ARRL.org. And I think that's where your email got sent yesterday, J Silva. And yes. Okay, so I'm going to launch a Zoom meeting here. Let's see here, 7:20. Okay, connecting.
Recording in progress.
All right, got it. And then I gotta, whoops, gotta mute this. Okay, right. So this one is where I'll be doing the presentations from, and I'll just rename this one here. I apologize for this, guys. It's just, you know what? Let me see here. Let me see file shares. Share. Oh, there it is. Okay. Oops, almost clicked leave. Okay. All right, so you can see that, right?
Right.
I guess, right. Okay. All right, so we're gonna do the ARRL update. Do you want to do the ARRL, or do you want to do Trinidad and Tobago first?
Your choice.
Yep, that's fine, Ria, and we can hear you just fine.
All right, so the ARRL update, it's not going to take that long with the ARRL update, because I think I'll do that first. Okay, so welcome to the second half of 2021 in the ARRL, and I need no introduction, because you guys gave such a fantastic introduction. So it's pretty good. I have some good news in particular in relation to Eastern New York, so you guys are going to like some of this. But first, let's talk about COVID updates. So the reopening progress. Headquarters is now fully open, and they've done some extensive restructuring of how they're letting guests in and how they're dealing with guests. And they have W1AW is now allowing guest operators once again. There are new precautions being taken. Visitors, they're allowed to visit the lobby, but they're not allowed to go beyond the doors after the lobby. I kind of have limited access behind there, but I don't really go to headquarters that often. So, but I visit staff and say hello sometimes. They have a new lobby. They have a new display in the lobby, and the radio museum that used to be tucked away in the back is now front and center in the lobby. That was our new CEO decided to do that. And here we have our reopening ceremony. Now you will notice here, you see the President Rick Roderick, you see the CEO next to him to the left, on the left side of the screen. Can I do something here? Yeah, I can do this. So this is our CEO. And this is the president here, okay? This is a member of Congress. And these are other people. I think we have CFO here, and a few other people. This was the reopening, rededication ceremony. You notice we have new graphics on the front of headquarters now. This is our new refreshed, basically ARRL logo. And you'll see that a lot more of that. I've had section managers and asking about when they'll be getting new Aries brochures, and the reason that they've stopped producing the old one is because they're going to put this logo on the new one, and new information, updated staff and such, which I'm going to be talking about. All right, and let me clear this because this is a video actually. And let's see here. See what I could do here. This is a kind of stoppy video, but here they did a ribbon cutting ceremony where they reopened ARRL headquarters. Okay. Now afterward, inside here, there are a bunch of people talking to that member of Congress, including David Siddall, our attorney. You have the Legislative Advocacy Committee and a few others. And you notice earlier I talked about the doors, and here members are not really allowed to go beyond this door here, right? So, but you could come in and visit all here. You have the radios here, you have merchandise available here, and you have a bunch of stuff in front, which I'm going to show you in detail. Okay. And yeah, this used to be tucked away in the back. This is now front and center. This I think is the one of the first satellites. And all the old radios are in front here. So, you know, when you go into headquarters, you'll be able to see all of this up front and center. So it's the first thing that greets you. Oh, sorry. They have the Ham display up front now, so you don't have to go all the way in the back to see that anymore. But I noticed a little discrepancy about this, and I pointed this out to them. This radio is upside down. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I pointed it out and he said he would fix it. So I'm in here with Steve Ewald. A lot of people know who he is. Steve is handling conventions and events and such now. So whenever I have to approve a Hamfest, I talk to Steve. Here I have David Minster, N2RJ, the new CEO. He's a little taller than me. But David has been doing a lot of work at headquarters. We have plaques with all the directors here, and the president's plaques to the right of it. In the division itself, as you well notice, Hamfests are back in full swing. A couple of weeks ago, I was up at the Ballston Spa Hamfest, and that was Saratoga County. They're always a nice visit up there. That's right in your neighborhood. Club meetings are returning to in-person. Of course, John, K2QY, your section manager, sent out a notice asking if any clubs are doing in-person presentations, in-person meetings. And, you know, if you guys want to invite me or whatever clubs want to invite me to do in-person meetings, I'd be more than happy to. But I've been going to Hamfest. I've been taking all the precautions, of course, but I've been trying to go back to some of the Hamfests because I want to support the Hamfests. We're going to be doing the division awards, and tomorrow I'm actually going to send out, we weren't really sure about how we would get this done because of all the COVID measures. Orange County is doing the awards again this year. So it's a go for November, November 13th, I believe it is. And I'm sending out the nominations, and we're going to have 2 years of awards. So if you could send in your nominations, and also John is going to honor some people from your section. So you have division level awards and you have section level awards. Just because you get one award doesn't mean that you can't get another. So if you want to do that, you know, if you want to nominate somebody for awards, I know a lot of people have been doing a lot of good work over the past couple of years. So please feel free to nominate them for an award. Here I have a little video clip of Saratoga County. It looked pretty well trafficked. You know, I was walking around here. They had a reasonable turnout here, I would say. They weren't terrible, but you know, they were down a little bit from last time, but it was nice to see people out again. Right. So I'm sure some of you have been to Saratoga County Hamfest at Bolson Spa. Always a fun time at the fairgrounds. And you know, you have various levels of, you know, people wearing masks and such, and you know, but I think for outdoor venues, you know, people can take their precautions as they see fit. You know, you're not crowded indoors, so you don't really have a lot of the risk as you do indoors, so you're outdoors. So let's talk about the legislative advocacy stuff. We are still working on HOA antenna legislation, but it's not going to be a big push. Like, it's not going to be a big public push where we're going and you know, making headlines every other day. What we are doing is, remember I showed you a member of Congress there? We actually had you know, we didn't bring him in for tea and crumpets and to show him how good the radios are. We did do quite a bit of discussion. We've been talking with various congressional allies, and we've been trying to get something into Congress. And we actually have a couple bills that we're proposing. Now, the way we're going to do this is we're not going to make a big splash. Obviously, we're going to do this where we could get the most effective and mutually beneficial way. And you know, hopefully, once we get something, we're going to announce it. But if you hear silence, it's not because we're not doing anything. It's just because we want to be strategic. The FCC is still making noise about January 6th. We're kind of not, you know, the ARRL put out a notice the first time. And I think really that kind of just did nothing other than cause a lot of people to, you know, to question, well, you know, why are you reminding us of something that is just common sense? Well, you know, we're just, you know, the FCC says what it says. We're having our discussions with them to explain to them, well, look, you know, this is really a non-issue. Radio amateurs are not involved in that kind of activity, really. And there's really nothing to be concerned about, you know. So, but we're doing this, you know, we're not doing this from a standpoint of you're wrong, we're right. We're doing this from a standpoint of, you know, we hope they understand what we're about, because amateur radio is about good. You know, amateur radio is not about, you know, people doing disruptive things. And people are entitled to their political views, okay, and their peaceful political views. So we don't want to interfere in that. The FCC also, the $35 fee keeps getting pushed and pushed. The latest is that it's going to be next year sometime. So the main thing with that is that they're actually getting a lot of their IT systems ready for that. And that apparently is taking longer. The latest is that what they're going to do is, hold on one second. Yeah, so the latest with that is that the person doing an exam for an upgrade or a new license is basically going to then do the exam. The paperwork gets submitted to the FCC, and then they will get an email from the FCC. By the way, everybody who submits an FCC application must have an email address now. That is the rule. And I've actually put this out a couple times. You know, if you do not have an email address, if you do not use email, if you're on this call, you probably use email. But if you know people who are not using email, the best bet, I mean, they could apply for a waiver to the FCC. The FCC has discretion over that. But to be honest, I don't think that they're going to grant waivers unless it's something like a disability or something, you know, that prevents people from being able to, you know, to use any kind of email communication. I think they're very rarely going to grant that. What they might tell you as well, find somebody who has email capability and ask them to help you. So anyway, what they're going to do is when you pass the exam during processing, the FCC is going to email you a link to pay the fee on the FCC website. You pay that fee there, and then they will continue to process your application. Frequency threats, we did stave off a little bit of we preserved half of the 3.5 gigahertz band. Now they're kind of talking about, well, you know, maybe we should look and see what we could do with the other half. We're still working on that in terms of preemptively trying to get them to say, well, look, you know, let's look at this from a standpoint of, if you're going to take it, why don't we look to share some of that frequency, right, on a secondary basis, because 3.5 gigahertz is not going to be used nationwide. So that's ongoing. WinLink, Factor 4, you know, and the symbol rate petition has been in there so long. The FCC hasn't done anything on that, and we've been trying to get them to do something on that, but they've really not budged on any of that. Same for technician enhancement. They haven't done anything on that either. We still keep trying to get them to do something. There is one thing they're actually going to do, which is there was a petition to keep past addresses private. So if you moved and you change your address, your old address is no longer going to be in the system. That has been on hold for so long, but the FCC has agreed with this new requirement for email addresses that they would keep email addresses private. And we asked them if, as part of that, if they could keep implement the physical address privacy as well, which I had asked, you know, our attorney to look into. So that might be a gateway to getting some things done. All right, so that is the legislative and advocacy efforts. We have a lot of new stuff going on in the ARRL Foundation, and this might be interesting because I actually been doing some of the scholarships, and I noticed some of the applications are up. I believe Schenectady had a scholarship that was some entity in Schenectady, might have been associated with you guys, that had a scholarship. So we have new larger scholarships available. And this has been through an organization known as ARDC, Amateur Radio Digital Communications. ARDC basically made $150 million. That's not an error. That's real money. $150 million from the sale of IP addresses to Amazon. And they have that money, and they're using that, they're investing that and making more money. And what they're going to do is they're going to be giving away that money to various amateur radio causes. One of them is the ARRL Foundation. They gave us a fund of $750,000 for scholarships. That's almost $1 million in scholarships. That's just $250,000 away from $1 million in scholarships. That's mind blowing. That means we're going to be giving away bigger scholarships, right? And more scholarships. Why is this important? Because one, we'll be able to attract youth, which a lot of people agree that we need to do. But at the same time, we're not going to just say, if you have an amateur license, you could get a scholarship. We're going to, you know, try to recruit people who are actively interested in amateur radio and see how, you know, we could get them interested in a scholarship. ARDC, the organization, they've also been giving other grants as well for other things, which are like, for example, one club asked me about emergency communications trailer, right? And ARDC has actually been sponsoring those kind of things. The ARRL Foundation has a restriction on those kinds of giving, but ARDC doesn't. And because of that, it might be a good idea if you're interested in that kind of thing and you want funding for something like that, you could probably approach ARDC and they might be able to help you with that. You can look at their website at ampr.org/giving. Right? You can tell them I sent you too. They usually want you to write a proposal and you know, and get formal and all kind of stuff like that. New member outreach initiatives, right? They're going big into YouTube. K5ATA was hired as the learning manager. We have a new director of operations, W5OV, Bob Nauman. He was originally WN2OVE because he used to live in New Jersey. There are a number of employee vacancies on the website, right? Because so the IT manager, IT director, IT manager, he retired for personal reasons. And I'm not allowed to disclose why he retired, but it's nothing bad. It's just, you know, it's kind of seeing some health issues and such like that. But so he's that vacancy is there. Is anybody hearing me? Okay, yeah. There are a number of vacancies on the website, so you could look and see if you know anybody's interested. These are on-site roles in Connecticut, so you can look and see for that. All right, and with that, I will take some questions, and then I'll proceed to the presentation on Trinidad, but I need to take like a 10-minute break for that to set up somewhere else.
Any questions from here?
Any questions from online participants? You can just unmute yourself and ask, and Jim will relay questions from our meeting room.
Yeah.
Question on the $35 fee.
Yes.
The government is throwing around money like a drunken sailor, not to disparage drunken sailors, but the trillions of dollars of money is getting floated around for God knows all kinds of useless things. So why are they picking on amateur radio, which does good and is useful out there in this world? So that's my question: why it has to be $35 or whatever.
You know, I asked the same thing, and I'll tell you this much. Initially, this was part of Ray Baum's Act, and this was a legislation, congressional legislation passed in, I think, was 2017, and FCC is hiding behind this whole thing about, well, you know, it's a congressional mandate, there's nothing we could do about it, which probably is true and probably isn't true. But the ARRL, actually, back then, I wasn't with the ARRL back then, but we had asked for an exemption from the fees, right? And then our council back then looked through the whole bill and, you know, got us exempted from the spectrum fees. They missed getting us exempted from the application fees. So that's how we're at this point now. At this point now, you know, I don't know if there's anything really we could do other than get legislation passed, and we could probably mention it to our member of Congress, because you know, if we have a good relationship with him, and probably get it passed as part of the wider antenna bill. You know, and I agree with you. We shouldn't be paying anything for our application fees, but you know, the FCC is hiding behind this is a congressional mandate. So that's where it came from, and that's where it is. I know it's $35 is a lot for some people. For some people it's not a lot of money, but I really didn't want us to pay anything. But this was something that was missed in the past, and now we're paying for it, literally. No, it's not an annual fee, it's a 10-year fee. It's $35 every 10 years. You pay it on renewal, and you pay it on new license and upgrades. You do not pay for change of address, and you do not pay it for change of name, or that kind of administrative updates.
Rhea, what if you want to get a vanity call?
Yes, you do pay for the vanity calls. Yeah. And believe it or not, that's one of the areas where we should have a fee, because there are people who, get a billion vanity calls and tie them up, right? So if we have like a fee, maybe your first vanity call should be free, and then your next vanity call should cost something to discourage people from this kind of call sign hoarding.
How do you get more than one vanity call?
Well, once you get the call, you could cancel your call and get a new one. Like, you can't hold them simultaneously, but the thing is, once you get it, you end up holding it for 2 years. But you don't actually hold the call. What happens is you lock the call from being available.
Question, Rhea, about the HOA legislation.
Yes.
We got a real good close up of it here right now. Must be right near the camera.
No, yeah, because I can't hear you. Sorry.
Okay. Could you say? Am I muted?
Are you good now?
Oh, okay. I saw the something about HOA legislation, and could you just say a few words about that? This is the first I've heard of HOA legislation.
Yeah, so the ARRL, the past director and the other, there was an effort called the Amateur Radio Parity Act, which would extend PRB1 style protections for people who live in HOAs, right? Meaning that, you'd have the right to install an antenna, okay? That failed because, the reason it appeared to fail is because Senator Bill Nelson from Florida, which is very famous for HOAs, he ended up blocking the bill, right? And he's the chairman of the committee, and he was able to completely block the bill. So he is out now. He lost his election. We actually decided to regroup and do something else with HOA legislation, which is probably not get it passed as a standalone bill, right? We're looking at different strategies. One of them is, we try to get it in another piece of legislation, and get it passed, get it passed. And then, once we get it passed, we could then make the fanfare. But the HOA organization, the Community Associations Institute, they actually ended up having a number of people lobbying against the bill. Hold on one second, so you don't hear piano. Yeah, so that's what happened basically. Does that answer your question?
Sure, thanks.
Yeah.
I have a question that wasn't on your list. Also in Florida, the woman who's complaining about a glucose machine getting interrupted by a local ham Has
Yeah.
anything happened with that?
So, yeah, actually, if you look on my YouTube channel, I actually have a video about that. But long and short of that is that we reached out to the Affect Ham. We got the lab involved. The lab looked at all the thing, and then I made some inquiries, and it seemed extremely unlikely that the pump would be affected by anything amateur radio, based on all the evidence, right? We brought that to them. They, we asked them if they could do some testing. The neighbor who claimed she was affected refused the testing, okay? And then, you know, she just kind of quietly just went away. So it looks like either she just hated amateur radio antennas and used the insulin pump as an excuse, or she really did have a problem and she was trying to blame amateur radio, but the evidence just wasn't there.
So do you see other people using this as another avenue for, you know, going against hams and stuff like this? Does this have like a domino effect of other people pulling this same card, so to speak? Like, oh, well, you know, my glucose monitor, my BiPAP machine, it's all being affected by this RF from these HF amateurs and stuff like that. Does anyone see this, you know, other people pulling the same card?
Yeah, they probably will. You know, they probably will. And then, so this person actually wasn't even a member of the ARRL, and we reached out and helped him, you know, and we'll always be there for that kind of thing, right? At the same time, people will try stuff, and we will be there to challenge it. So, you know, I can't say whether they'll be successful. If there is no evidence that we're harming them, I doubt they'll be successful, right? If there is, because I mean, let's face it, with our demographic, there are a lot of people using medical equipment of all kinds, right? Insulin pumps, even pacemakers. You know, you hear pacemakers as being one of the pieces of equipment that are affected by RF, right? And yet we don't have any, you know, big set of cases of pacemakers being affected by amateur radio. Right. Give me 1 second. Let me just switch audio. All right. Yeah. So yeah, people will try this, and I have no doubt they'll try, and they'll, you know, try other things. I mean, you know, there's always a health angle. The other thing you really need to be aware of too is on the Hudson Division webpage, there's under the resources menu, there is the RF exposure resources, right? And I also did a video about that too, but you know, you can check the ARRL webpage. They have a full set of resources. ARRL.org/RF-exposure. They will tell you how to do the RF exposure calculation, which is important for you know, being in compliance with FCC rules. And if you're in compliance with FCC rules, it's much less likely that you'll have problems. All right, let me switch this here. Okay, let me lock this off. Okay. Right. Okay. So this should be much better now. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. So let me actually, you know, while I have it here, let me show you what I'm talking about.
Yeah, your audio is a little on the high side, a little loud. So it sounds like you're over modulating.
Yeah, okay. Let me see. Preferences, audio. Right. How is that?
I think that's better, I guess.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, the piano sounds great.
Yeah, that's the kids at choir practice. So
Okay.
anyway. All right, let me see this here. All right, let me show you the RF exposure resources, right? I came here because I have better internet here. This is actually, okay. Keynote, nope. TV, that's weird. Is it here? Let's see here. Okay. Can you see that? The RF exposure page? Okay. All right. And you see here, they have a bunch of exposure resources. They have the calculator here too, right? And then you can run the, let's say, you input the amount of power you're running, the duty cycle, the type of mode you're running, right? Like you're running FM, AM, SSB. And then you could include the effects of ground rate. And let's say, center of the band or the highest frequency, let's say 14.35, right? And you calculate, and then it tells you, let's see, a bunch of, well, apparently it didn't calculate here, but let me see here, 50.3, okay. Well, there's a problem with this calculator. So actually there is something else. And I actually have this, this video. Yeah. Right. And then if you look here, I have one on RF exposure. Let's see here, videos. I have so many videos here. Right, this one, right? RF safety rules, right? And then in this video, you don't have to actually go watch the whole video. Although it's, why we have these rules, and then introduction to MP calculations, checking for exemptions and such. It has catchy music and drone video footage. But the important thing is we have all the links here. And importantly, we have these calculators link here, right? So if you look here, you'll see I have a calculator by VP9KF. And then we have this one from Wayne Overbeck. I like this one better, from Lake Washington Ham Club, right? And then it'll tell you, let's say you have 90 watts at your antenna, 2.15 for a dipole, 14.2. The video explains all of this, by the way, right? And then it tells you this, the distances, safe distances, 0.6 feet, the power density allowed. And here you have a number of different antennas, but this is what you need to really concentrate on. And what I would encourage everybody to do is go through the video, okay? Go through the video, then run the calculator, right? For each band you operate on, create these results, right? Each band and mode, right, you operate on. And then you screenshot that and then keep that in your station files, okay? Like if you keep electronically, you could keep it on a flash drive, or you could print it out and keep it in a filing cabinet or something, just so that in case anything like that comes up with the insulin pump or any other issues where people are saying that how your RF is causing them problems, you'll be able to then use that and say, well, I'm in compliance with FCC rules. So it's an additional thing in your toolbox. It's an additional piece of evidence you have that your station is in full compliance with FCC rules. So, all right, so that is relevant to that. But like I said, if you look on, for the video, actually, I think if you look for RF safety, it's the first video that comes up. And I'm not just saying this because I want you to watch my my videos. I'm just saying that this is actually I put a lot of time into getting it right, and I did put, it's a good place to have it all in one. If you just want to look at the ARRL webpage, right? See, it's this one here. If you want to look at the ARRL webpage, ARRL.org/RF-exposure, you could read this and then you could go through this slowly. And then you can actually go and, you know, take your time and digest this and understand everything. So there are several ways to do it. Okay, all right. All right, are we ready for the next one?
Yes, sir.
Or any other questions? All right, anybody else?
Oh, good.
All right, okay. All right, let me start the next one. And it should be a fun one. And if anybody wants to reach out to me regarding these issues, please feel free. My line is always open. The only thing I ask is if you call me, don't just hang up at the call screener, because I get a lot of spam calls. And if you just identify yourself with your name, I'll pick up an answer or I'll call you back later. But I had to put a call screener in place because of spam calls. All right, so let me share this here. Okay. Right, okay, amateur radio in Trinidad and Tobago by me. All right, and this is the YouTube channel. I already plugged the YouTube channel, so I don't need to anymore. So if any of you have worked Trinidad and Tobago, it is 2 islands in the southern part of the Caribbean. It is the most southerly islands of the tropical Caribbean, right? 2 islands, 1 country. And you can see it's right near to Venezuela too. It was first visited by Columbus. So Christopher Columbus first came there in 1498. They had 2 native tribes that were there, the Arawaks and the Caribs. And the Arawaks were basically vegetarians, farmers. They used to farm cassava and such. And the Caribs were not vegetarians, if you know what I mean. Okay. And they used to fight wars, and, you know, the Caribs used to, all right. They were first ruled by the Spanish and then the British, okay? So the British came in 1797. The Spanish obviously came with Columbus, but between that, they brought a lot of the French, and the French owned a lot of estates that they planted stuff, cocoa, coffee, sugarcane, and all of that stuff. Steel pan, you know, the steel drums, calypso, and limbo dancing were all invented there. Don't ever let anybody tell you it was invented in Jamaica, okay? Because they're wrong. It was invented there in Trinidad and Tobago. They're roughly 34% Indian, as in from India, like me, and 34% African, mostly West Africa. They're Chinese, Syrian, European, French, English, Dutch, German, and of course, some Arawaks and Caribs left. There are several religions, several flavors of, several denominations of Christianity. I was actually, I experienced 2 of them, actually. I was Presbyterian and Catholic, so Pentecostalism, spiritual, Charter Baptist, which is kind of like a Christian religion with African roots. Yeah, Hinduism is big there because of the Indian population. Islam and Baha'i for some reason. They're a major, well, they're a big oil country, oil economy, oil and gas. They also produce byproducts of gas, natural gas, mainly ammonia and methanol. They also make metals, iron, steel, and they make some amount of aluminum. They had a big aluminum smelter project that was going to be open in part of the island, but protests from local residents due to environmental concerns shut it down. So they never got that. How do you get a license? You can pass an exam. They don't have their own exam. They have, most people take the FCC exams. I took the British exam. So I have a British license as well too. And that's how I got mine back in the 1990s. Back then, by the way, they didn't have the new telecommunications authority. They had the old telecom division of the office of the prime minister. You fill out the form, you pay $100 TT, which is $15 American. Your license is issued within 1 to 2 days and is valid for 1 year. I think they're going to extend that to 3 years now. If you are a resident or citizen, you can get a 9 Zulu 4 or a 9 Yankee 4. They're going to revamp that, and everybody's just going to get 9 Yankee 4 because they completely removed Morse code testing. If you're a non-resident, you'll get 9Y4 stroke your home call. So, you'll probably get 9Y4 stroke W2 XYZ or whatever, right? And a lot of other countries, in the United States, we have tremendous freedom with our equipment, right? And amateur radio in this country is very free. I don't think people realize just how good we have it here, and God bless America. But there you have to declare all your equipment, and it has to be on a list that the government maintains, unless it's homebrew. Okay, so if you make a radio, you really can't. If you make a radio, you can put it on air. If you buy a radio that's unknown, you have to take it to the telecommunications office and have them certify the radio. Baofeng is on the list for some odd reason. And Baofeng's good radio. They don't have equipment dealers. They have Radio Shack. Okay, Radio Shack is still going strong there. But most people import their equipment, right? And when I mean import, like a friend goes to Miami or New York, they said, hey, buy a radio for me and bring it back, okay? And as I mentioned, the certification process. The local amateur radio society is TTARS, Trinidad and Tobago Amateur Radio Society. I used to be an officer of TTARS back in the day. I used to be a Southern regional representative. And that, it was very interesting. The Scouts, they're very intertwined with the Scouts, and they're headquartered in the capital city of Port of Spain, which is in the northwest part of the island. Unfortunately, in 1990, we had some incidents of terrorism by this guy on the right side here. He ran a mosque, and he had a radical organization, and he had ties to Muammar Gaddafi. And they took a car bomb to police headquarters, and they basically went into parliament with machine guns, and they arrested the members of parliament and the prime minister for 6 days. Eventually, they brokered an amnesty deal and they got out. But because they used CB radios to coordinate, the government said, you know what, radios are tools of terrorism. So the government immediately put strict controls on the importation of radios. So it's very hard to get a radio in the country. But you know what? If you talk to people, and like everything in Trinidad, you have to know somebody, which is really annoying way to do things there. If you're a foreigner and you bring equipment, you usually have to pay a bond equal to the value of the equipment, which means bring a receipt for what the value of the equipment should be. But at the same time, that rule is is inconsistently enforced. I've seen people just walk through with their radios and not anything happen to them. I'll give you a hint. Tobago is a lot better to go through than Trinidad. Trinidad, they will hold you to the ringer. Tobago, they tend to be a little more lax. There are approximately 250, that's not a typo, hams in a population of 1.4 million. Most of them are on 2 meter FM, and you have several repeaters. You have 9Y4 TT, 14793 and 14694. They have a net on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. I was hoping they'd put it on Echolink so I could check in, but I still check in via Echolink to my friends. They set up Echolink nodes for me to check in. In the late 90s, Tobago got its own repeater, 14776. The local emergency management agency has its own repeater, 147-800, and they put up one on 148-800, and that has interoperability capability. So hams could use it with a Mars Cap mod. but the emergency management agency, so you could talk with them basically directly. So if you have a disaster, you could talk with the emergency management agency on both 147 and 148 800. They have HF nets on 7.159, and then they have an informal gathering on 14.220 or 14.194. I don't know how often they have it. I know it used to be real regular like 5-6 years ago. And I used to really enjoy checking in. I used to check in from the mobile, driving around. It was a lot of fun. So this is one of my friends. This is Leon, 9 Zulu 4 Bravo Mike. He's a big time antenna builder. He loves to build antennas. They get a lot of, due to the industrial nature of the country, they get a lot of raw materials like aluminum or aluminium, depending on how you pronounce it. And he goes to the local metal warehouse and he buys all these metals and he builds antennas. So he enjoys both amateur radio and 11 meters. So he builds antennas for both. He's also an avid satellite operator and a weak signal operator. He loves weak signal. He's a really active ham. Here he is, actually up on a tower. He is getting fixing a commercial tower. He does commercial tower work. This was back in 2006, I think it was. Here's his QSL card, and he has a website where he builds antennas too. So you could probably check out his website, 9z4bm.tripod.com. I'll send these slides as PDF, by the way, so you guys don't have to remember anything. So don't worry, there will not be a quiz. This is my my mentor, 9Y4 Alpha Lima, silent key, unfortunately, because cancer sucks. I hate cancer. Cancer took away him, and cancer took away Steve, W2ML, who were perhaps the most two influential people in amateur radio to me. So if you're an Elmer, please don't get cancer. It's terrible for the people you've Elmered. Anyway, he's a very, very talented technical person. He was also an organist in church. He was very, good music personalities. So he taught a lot of license classes. I used to help him with license classes when I was a teenager. And I used to enjoy teaching license classes as well. I got quite a few youth license when I was like 16, 17. This is another good friend, Arnold, 9Y4 November Golf. So Arnold's interesting because Arnold owns a commercial radio company, two-way radio, land mobile radio. He actually owns a lot of property on high elevation. So he's donated some of space on his repeater sites for amateur repeaters and also packet digipeaters. So he's a very important person. He hosts the local clubs, of course, digipeater and repeaters, and it's very, very good of him. But I'll show you some other things too. This is actually, I think we were actually going up to one of the repeater sites. This is a frequent site when going up to the repeater site on the left side, okay? The roads up there are treacherous. And this truck was just minding his business, and he ended up in the ditch, and this cement truck came here. I don't know if he came to help him or if he came to, to go, and this guy was in his way, but something happened there. This is a view from on top of one of the repeater sites. You can see this nice takeoff and the hills in the distance too. And this is a common sight, Nobody puts a leash on their dog. And this is like one of the, little people's shacks there. So interesting stuff. Let's see here. This is Arnold's shack, by the way. And he has a number of familiar radios. He has this is a Kenwood. He loves Kenwood gear. Kenwood's good, and his radio, he loves to sound good. You see, he has good sound gear too. He has good equipment here. So he has a service monitor down here, and he has this was a repeater cabinet. I think he was servicing this repeater. His microphone. His antenna farm is up here. See here, you have Tribander, Mosley. He has other antennas up here too. And then you see here his car, well equipped. He was one of the first people to have a cell phone, actually. He was a beta tester for a local phone company. Yeah, some of these call signs might seem familiar. Chris 9Y4D. He is a big time contester, DXer, and this all around ham. You have Dev 9Y4DG. He's another school teacher and he loves FTA. Gwendolyn, Gwen 9Y4GD. She is one of the more famous YL operators. Mark 9Z4 Yankee, another DXer. Noel 9Y4 X-ray. Noel, so Noel, last time I met Noel was at Centennial in 2014. He's doing good. Noel actually gave me the first experience on HF with his Kenwood TS440. And because of that, I actually bought one of those rigs and I have it at home and I fire it up now and again to operate on HF, SSB, and CW. Stevenson, 9Z4 Delta Zulu. He has family in Baltimore, but then he drives up to New York and New Jersey and he visits me sometime. So he comes here every few years. Unfortunately, his wife died because of a drunk driver hit their car head on. This guy will give you the shirt off his back. He's a really, really nice guy. You might know Andy 9Y4 Whiskey. He's a longtime German expat. He's now, I guess, a full Trini. Frank 9Y4 VU. Some of the old timers might remember him. He's a contester. He hosted a lot of Americans at his station. Harry 9Y4H. He's a doctor and he used to host K6NA, but I don't know what happened to him. I understand he found religion and just went deeply into religion and got off of ham radio. So these guys actually activated one of the islands off the northwestern coast of Trinidad. You could see these islands. We call these islands down the islands, right? Right, and they have Spanish names. Okay. Let's see here. They did a little art drawing here, Chakachakari Island in 2019, 994XD. They got a special call sign. This is a Coast Guard, sorry, not Coast Guard. This is a military installation that they got permission to operate on. And this person here is 9Z4EJ, but I'll show you him in a little while. So they have a lot of tents and they brought, this barrels of stuff actually doesn't belong to them. That belongs to the military, but the tents is theirs. 9Z4EJ, really nice guy. He's very active ham, and he's more on HF, SSB, and 2 meters. He doesn't really do CW. And this is his station. He has an ICOM 718, and he has the MFJ tuner. Left side, he has like an FT857. One of the popular delicacies in Trinidad here, you have nuts in a rum bottle, basically. Like, you take peanuts and you fry it up, and then you put salt and you put it in a rum bottle. All right, they sell this in the stores. And it's a good thing to snack on while you're operating. They have all their wiring connections here inside these little homemade boxes. And this is a lighthouse. They're actually activating a lighthouse on Chakachakari Island. Okay. Oops. Okay. So other things to do. Every year there is Carnival. It's like Rio. It's like New Orleans. It's like Mardi Gras, but it's our own thing. And I would say ours is the best. They have music trucks. They have lots of misbehaving, The capital city and the second industrial city, Port of Spain and San Fernando, they have big street parades. They have steel band competitions. So you find that steel band is a big thing. You have the pitch lake. So they have a La Brea pitch lake, right? The tar pit. They have healing properties in the water, supposedly. Well, it's actually full of sulfur, so that might have some truth into it. There's a legend that this pitch lake was formed for one of the Indian tribes killing hummingbirds. And then they, got punished for that. That's the story. And here it is. You notice there's a lot of water, but there's a lot of asphalt as well too, right? So you could go, and they used to mine this. They used to actually truck it out and build roads and such all over the world with this asphalt, natural asphalt. I don't know if they still do that. You can go to Tobago by ferry. You can take a boat. You can put your car on the boat, and then it takes about 2 to 3 hours to get to Tobago. This was my dad's car. And this is my dad. He was, the ship had slot machines that didn't work because they didn't allow gambling. I think now they allow gambling, but he just posed in front of them. It's a nice ride from Trinidad to Tobago. And here you end up in Tobago. Wouldn't you want to be here? Of course you want to be here, right? I don't want to be in the ice and snow. I want to be here. I want to be here, I'll hopefully go back when the COVID is done, but go back and visit. But yeah, this is a nice place to be. That's the beach. That's called Pigeon Point Beach. They have a coral reef. Unfortunately, pollution and all sorts of stuff made the corals a little hard to see. They have a lot of industrial pollution and stuff like that. So kind of thing. But these reefs used to be really, really beautiful back in the 1980s. They used to be really colorful. Coral reef. To get around, you could take one of these mini buses called a maxi taxi. They're usually $12 to $25, and you pay them in cash and local currency. You could pay them in US dollars, but you're going to get ripped off. So it's best to just pay them in TT dollars. Their fares are actually regulated, but a lot of them ignore the regulations. They get in trouble with the police, but that doesn't seem to deter them. You could buy, I think now you could buy SIM cards in the airport, and you could activate your cell phone. They have 4G LTE and 3G. I don't know if they hopped on 5G yet. They're a little behind. Every year they have an Indian festival called Deepavali. They have lots of good food. It's good food. It is really good food. And they have a lot of cultural performances, right? It's like a Hindu theme park. And they have this big festival. So it's like, how you have like the county fair? Well, this is the Indian county fair, okay? This is really nice. If you like birds, there's a lot of birds. This is a kiskadee bird. That was actually in my dad's front yard in an orange tree. There are many, many species of birds because birds like these small islands, and birds love trees, and there's lots of trees. And birds like warm weather. This food here is called the doubles, which is it's a street food. It's basically 2 fried breads with chickpeas, curry. Chinese food there is a little different. It's Cantonese, and it's a little more spicy. They have a food called roti, which is unleavened bread. You put chicken or beef or goat or potato in that, and you eat it. They actually sell it like that, so it's nice. So some things I learned that carried over. I had to make do with very little as a ham radio operator. I had to scrounge for equipment. I had to use very old and used equipment. I didn't have a lot of money. I mean, now now I'm a lot better off. I have a career and I have a good job and such. But back then, I had to scrounge and beg and borrow and stuff. You had to homebrew, right? And you had to fix things, and you had to repair, which is why I'm a strong proponent of right to repair. I think that everybody should have the ability to reuse and repair their old equipment. The emergency communications is very important there because they don't have resilient infrastructure like we do here, okay? When stuff goes down, it goes down hard, right? So ham radio is very important. A lot of hams came from CB, but they kind of adjust to ham radio a lot better. Nothing's wrong with CB, but at the same time, ham radio is a little more advanced, so to speak. And the final thing is you really need to be careful with your equipment. Otherwise, you're going to have to get things imported from the United States or Europe, and it's going to be a lot of money. Finally, in memoriam, I really miss my teacher, and I hope he's, somewhere in heaven, or, at least having a good time wherever he is. All right, and that's the end of my Trinidad and Tobago spiel. And I appreciate it. you're listening.
Hey, Rhea,
Yes.
do you know, oops, I lost it. 9Z4D, hang on a second, let me get it back up here. I was just looking at some of the people I worked in Trinidad, Tobago.
Mhm. Yeah, hold that thought, okay?
Yep, go ahead.
I recently spoke about this event, which was a 9Y59 IND. They recently celebrated 59 years of independence, and they got a special call sign, okay? They made over 6,000 QSOs, and you could request which is the certificate online there, you know, if you work them. Anyway, that was what I was gonna tell you.
9Y5D Delta.
On 9Y4D.
9Y4D, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Chris, that's Chris.
My reading isn't as good as it used to be.
Yeah, that's Chris Ellis. Chris, he's a big time contester.
Yeah, I've worked him twice on 6-meter FT8 and
really?
Also 9Z4Y.
Yes, I know him.
He's my 2021 Trinidad Tobago marathon QSO.
Good stuff.
He was also my last year, and I think the year before that.
Yeah, this is my little guy here.
I think we have time for maybe a couple of questions, but we're pretty much running out of time. So any
okay.
Yeah.
Quick question on electrical voltage. Is it 120, 60 cycle like it is in the United States?
Yes, it's American standard one. Well, it's actually 110 volt, 60 hertz. But all your American equipment will work there. They also have 220 volt available. So it's the same arrangement. It's split phase, 110, 220, 60 hertz.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions from Alplaus?
I was going to say thanks for the tour of Trinidad and Tobago. I always said Tobago, but it's good to know the right way to pronounce it. Being an old stamp collector, I got stamps from Trinidad and Tobago, but I didn't ever know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, we pronounce it Tobago. I think the name of the island actually came from tobacco, so it might be Tobago.
Yeah.
So, but the way we pronounce it, the way the government and the way the locals pronounce it is Tobago, like Tobago.
How about that? Okay, so we have no more excuses for bad pronunciation.
Right. Yeah.
Any other questions for Rhea? Online or local? No, we're good. Well, let's thank Rhea again for a good talk.
Thank you, guys.
Rhea, and thank you on behalf of all of our participants, both online and in person at our new location. We want to thank you for both of your presentations. They're very informative. This presentation has hopefully been recorded and will be available through a means that we will talk to Rhea about at a later time.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you feel free to to put it up on whatever website or social or YouTube or whatever you want to. No problem.
Okay, thank you. It has been put up in the past on YouTube. Unfortunately, I was not able to record it in the cloud, so I've been capturing it locally, and hopefully that'll be okay.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
So.
Well, thank you again, Rhea. Have a good evening.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thanks, Rhea.
Sorry about the noise but I had to take my kids to choir practice in church here. So it's
And to all Sarah members, this Zoom meeting
was an experiment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Say again. We're still figuring out the equipment and stuff. And
okay.
Okay. So with that, we're adjourned.
We very seldom have a presentation with musical accompaniment.
Well, that was good.
The-
All right, very good.
The Zoom meeting will stay open if any of you want to chat, if you want to close it
Yeah.
down, whatever you want to do.
All right, I'll see you guys there.
Bye, Ria. Thank
Take
you.
it easy.
There's a table of goodies in the back. Nothing to eat, unfortunately, but lots of good things to take home with you. A few of them have prices. If they don't have a price, check with me. A lot of it's free. These are kind of leftovers from a couple of the silent groups that have donated their equipment to Sarah to raise funds, and that's been very successful in ham fests. But alas, there's still a few items that are cluttering Skip's garage, my basement. We like to get them into good homes. There's a few builders in the audience still, which is what Rudy and Clark Ittinger and all Kaczynski were. So builders usually have extra stuff. So she brought it back on memory. I think I was up at our trailer in Speculator, and I called CQ on 6 meters to W. It was 994 VLAN. So, whoa, that was an interesting. That is, you know, now we know what 9Y4 is. She mentioned that Carl's brought
You should be able to hit Alt-C.
Alt-C to
Bob.
Oh, yeah. Bob, are you,
He said he's gonna leave the chat open. in case
Oh, yeah.
anyone wanted to linger.
yeah, so that we can,
If you were addressing me, Jim, it's very, very hard to hear you or anybody in the room when you're way away from your PC. So
we're gonna kind of mingle here for a little bit, and then when it's time to turn off my computer, I'll turn it off, but I'll leave it up for any one of us that wants to talk to any one of you guys.
So, and just a technical comment for you and Terry. There may be value in, you know, if we want to ramp this up to the next level, is to introducing a microphone and a mixer in the room. I have that kind of equipment. Terry is very versed in this as well. It's a matter of whether you want to, you know, go even further, but the little microphone that I think is built into your laptop, you know, drops off very, very quickly.
Yeah, right now I'm using the Logitech C920 camera, and it's built-in mic, and it's probably very similar to what there is in a laptop. Yeah, a little bit better, maybe 1% better.
Okay.
Good night, everybody. Guys, I hope you like the facilities here. If you feel like it, you can stack the chairs on that little cart. If you don't, we'll take care of it.